I was saying it's endless. It does not end
Yeah, it
at
is
any
endless
point.
because now, as you were saying, there's so many ideas. Like even just us talking now, there's a lot of ideas that are popping in my head. Like I was thinking, even in the beginning, as wild as it sounds, like, man, Nairuz should make an album where you have collabs with artists with all these different indigenous languages, stuff like
Oh,
that. That'd be something
that's
interesting.
great. Yeah.
If we're actually gonna end up doing this, I'm gonna cut this out. Like this is confidential. No, but I'm thinking we're moving into like a collaboration culture now with music, right? Like I feel especially and it's just even pre-COVID, like because of the internet probably opening so many doors, and you discover artists you would have never met anyway back in the day, if it was before the internet.
Yeah.
Um, that people are becoming also a lot less selfish about their work and realizing there's so much I don't know and I can learn. So you know, and overlapping fan bases, you know, through featuring people on your album. And I mean, how I'm asking these questions, even though I know how do you choose your collaborations these days? Because I thought it would be nice
Well,
actually to reflect on like how we started working together and things we're working on, thought processes that go on in your heads when we talk about your work. And yeah,
I think it's a thematic approach towards having someone collaborate with you on something. Because then again, with the internet being our huge our number one catalyst in this case, I think there are many ways you can collaborate with people. So it doesn't necessarily need to revolve around musical collaboration as opposed to really collaborating within the visual art and
yeah,
visual content.
spreading the
You're
workload.
thinking dance. I'm thinking lyricists who would write in different composers, also mixing engineers. So many. I would assume all fields of all disciplines within the arts world. It's now the internet has become um, a melting pot for all of these disciplines, and
Yeah.
for every artist to actually be able to collaborate in a digital sense. Again, a bigger question for me would be, whether or not. So right now we have the accessible and readily the readiness of sharing stuff over the internet. But then again, if we were to take it back, uh, would we be able to access and be able to collaborate without the use of internet and without the use of any
Oh,
external?
bro, like this go takes me back to this interview I did with at ADE with Nick Warren, who was solo but used to be the DJ of Massive Attack. And he
Oh
said,
yeah.
like, I asked him because he grew up, I think, in the early '80s when electronic music was just an underground thing, and they would get so much work. He said there's like this small community of DJs that would get so much work just because they were the people with the record collection. That's what he said. That's how it started. They had the record collection because it was all physical,
Yeah,
and they were
yeah,
always they
yeah.
were so obsessive. They'd go, here, like find even vinyl records that there's maybe 3 copies of ever, and mix that in with something else. And they were like, yeah, that's convenient. It's convenient to have the guys that have all the music and just play whatever you want at our show. So
You can watch many of these, but I think, this is how genuine these DJs have really DJs and producers, in a sense, would be. Um, yeah, how genuinely influenced and invested these producers have been in the past. I would say 20 years, 30 years, maybe even more. I'm sure, because it spans across the past few decades. And I was having this conversation about one particular DJ, Carl Cox,
yeah,
and a friend of mine would tell me about a documentary or some sort of setup that he has seen, a live set, and then he would not talk about the music, but rather he would talk about the venue or the place that Carl Cox was playing at, and I think it was at his home. Um, and it was at this library, huge monumental place,
Mm.
filled with at least 2 million. It was like with like how do you say, shelves, right?
Books,
Fully
yeah.
stacked with vinyl records and phonographic records, and it's just like how. First of all, how do you get the money to collect
Yeah.
such large group of works? And then again, do you really use all of these? Do you really sample all of these records? Have you listened to every single record there is?
Of
And
course not.
probably
Of course not. I mean, they know people are. Yeah, a lot of times you just pick up a bunch of stuff though as well, and maybe one day you'll get to it, but half the time you probably don't. I mean, you have a big record collection that you probably haven't heard a lot of them, and it's not even that huge to that extent, like. But
I haven't
you
heard.
never know. You might hear one day, like, this is interesting. Let me put it in, and then you create some music around it. Wait, how do you usually go about doing that? If you want to get inspired by an old piece of music, like a vinyl record you found, or because to explain, like Nairuz has, and correct me if I'm wrong, inherited a lot of records, right? And a lot
Yes,
of them
I
are
have.
from very region specific in Europe, and around the world actually, but very region specific, very local artists, like the underground artists, or what do you call them? Starting artists you have nowadays, but from
So
back
I
in the day.
inherited the.
Mm. It's like
Yeah, I
SoundCloud
mean,
artists
listen, that
from
collection that I have.
decades ago, yeah, essentially.
Well,
Indie artists
I
from
wouldn't say
decades ago.
so. I don't know, man. The thing is,
No, SoundCloud artists have a very big stigma on them.
I
Yeah.
can't go about saying it because you don't want you don't want that term Spotify SoundCloud artist to be in any sense used in a pejorative sense, right? As a
Yeah.
pejorative term. But then again, listen, yeah, I did inherit this collection of records from my father. My father used to study. He studied in Spain, and he used to live in the UK and Spain. And yeah, many of the artists would be like you're thinking Julio Iglesias, you're thinking Rocío Docal, you're thinking bands like what's his name? Cream, Eric Clapton's Cream.
Mm.
Hey, we know that one track.
Yeah.
I'm with you, my love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that track. Sunshine of Your Love.
Mm-hmm.
So when the pandemic first broke out, and this was last year, March last year, I saw it after sampling some of these vinyl records, and I was very happy to actually have received. I had ordered from Amazon these adapters, like little circular plastic bits that you'd apply to, because I have the smaller vinyls, the ones that go on 45 RPM. That's what they call it. So they had a bigger hole.
Mm-hmm.
So I had extensions adapters, and it was great practice for me to, like, well, first of all, to actually get to listen to this beautiful quality of, you're thinking back then, the idea of music making was much more authentic. I feel it was at least more skillful
It's
than.
mechanical. Feels like you
Yeah,
are doing with your hands more.
that's true.
It's
And then
like
again,
I see it sort of just as a if the difference between driving a automatic or like a mechanical car, or like a Porsche or like a Ferrari with the engine and everything, rather than a Tesla or a hybrid like a Prius or something. Where it's
an
a cool
Alpha
car, but
Romeo,
like you don't feel that power. You don't not doing as much with your hands.
and it left less room for error for any mistakes.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, you'd have to be at the studio and record everything like on spot, and if you were to make a mistake, and it's costly, man. You've already wasted some tape, some actual physical tape,
I'm with you
and
still.
you don't want to do that. As opposed to now, where you have the we have we have some good softwares that we can use. Digitally we can edit and amend and move things back and forth. We can, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you can go about creating anything you want. Of course, with the addition of having such samples from back in, you know, returning go back to older tracks and older music bits that were created in different formats. We can play and edit and use them. Actually, I've always wondered about this public domain kind of thing. It's like
Mm.
so whether or not a certain type of music had because what is it? Is it I think right now it will be music from the 60s. I think it's like if a piece of music was created before 1964 or 1962, it's now
Yeah,
in the
it's free
public
use.
domain. Oh,
Which is
well,
awesome. I'm gonna
congrats.
start doing my intros with that music, man. Because garage rock is one of my favorite genres there is. And then you're talking about like the Chuck Berrys of the world as well. And
Anyway,
I used to host, not host. I used to have a host on the platform of what's it called? The Brimmers. It was the drummer of the Brimmers and stuff like that. Music you guys gotta look up. That would be,
I actually
yeah.
don't know this group. The Brim, what was it?
Hold on. The Brimmers
The Brimmers.
with a Y. The Brimmers.
Hmm.
Yeah, mate.
Like Skinner.
It's very like surf rockish, but like gritty. It's like the punk rock movement, but of the late 50s, early 60s, all the way up until the late 50s, I think. No, the late 60s, and it's what you would hear in aesthetically. Like if you would have to put a movie on it, maybe Fast Times at Ridgemont High would be more of a that type of people, you know. If I had to put like a visual on it, yeah.